All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carly Lighthizer, and I'm the Extension Program Specialist for the UF IFAS Center for Public Issues Education in Agriculture and Natural Resources, also known as the PI Center. And I'm also part of the Outreach Corps for the Southeastern Coastal Center for Agricultural Health and Safety, the center that is putting on the webinar today. So it's my pleasure to host today's webinar titled Images of Recovery 1 Year After Helene with Dr. Lindsey and Dr. Christa Court, and we're scheduled to run from 2 to 3 Eastern time today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can put them in the Q&A chat box feature, and then following the speaker's time, we'll go over all the questions. There's also going to be a link and a QR code at the end leading you to the post-webinar evaluation survey, and we really appreciate your participation in that. So any resources mentioned today by Dr. Angie or Dr. Christa, we will share those with you after the fact. So now on to our presenters. I'm pleased to introduce two leading experts in natural disaster impact and recovery from the University of Florida. Dr. Angie Lindsey is Associate Professor in the Department of Family, Youth, and Community Sciences and serves as the point of contact for the Florida Extension Disaster Education Network, also known as EDEN. And Dr. Christa Court is an associate professor in the Department of Food and Resource Economics and serves as the director of the Economic Impact Analysis Program. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Angie and we can kick things off.
Great. Thank you so much, Carly. Just give me a few seconds to pull up my slides. Thank you so much for everybody being here today. This is a project that Krista and I have been working on actually since Hurricane Ian, believe it or not. So we're excited to be talking about it. This is a project that is coming to an end at the end of this year. I'll give you a little bit more background as I get into my slides, but it has been ongoing since Hurricane Ian. And as you can see by the list there, we've had several other storms since Hurricane Ian, but I'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So just to give a little background on kind of how this project got started, we were curious into understanding the impacts and long-term recovery impacts and needs of our community, specifically after Hurricane Ian. And I mean, everybody gets surveyed to death. And last thing we wanted to do is send out another survey to individuals. And so we decided to use the photo voice methodology, which I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the start date of this was September 15th, 2023. So almost in exactly a year after Hurricane Ian. Got about $250,000. Our methodology was to identify those severe economically impacted areas and communities through the work of Dr. Court, and Krista's going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then look particularly in those particular communities for photographs of identified communities to understand the needs and recovery based on the disaster resilience model, which I'll also show. But then using that information to apply it. So what are the needs and the recovery needs in these communities based upon that analysis, and work to meet those needs with current partners and resources and partners that are possibly a bit identified. And last but not least, develop outreach tools and trainings to meet those needs as well. So we have a pretty diverse team of folks. Obviously, myself and Krista are here today. Kimberly Davis is with our partner institution, FAMU. Dr. Tracy Arani has worked on projects like this in the past and is currently working with us within the Center of Public Issues in Agriculture and Natural Resources, and also with the Southeastern Coastal Center for Ag Health and Safety as well. Dr. McLeod Morin is also with the Southeastern Coastal Center of Ag Health and Safety, excuse me. And then David Outerbridge is actually our county extension director in Lee County in Southwest Florida. So again, looking particularly for after Hurricane Ian originally. Advisory board includes a neuropsychologist consultant, clinical psychologist, several extension professionals, and then a couple of mental health nonprofit organizations, as we absolutely wanted to use them in the analysis since they are the experts in understanding the possible mental health needs as well. So as I first mentioned, we actually started this project in response to Hurricane Ian. This is a rapid response project that is actually funded by the National Institute of Food and Agriculture out of the USDA. And so it was truly supposed to be a 1 year rapid response project after Hurricane Ian in 2022. While right before we actually were funded, the year after Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Idalia happened in August 2023. We asked if we could indeed include that one, and they said yes. As we were kind of getting things together and moving along, and we were collecting data, Hurricane Debbie happened in 2024. And then, of course, we had Hurricane Helene. And about 2 weeks later, we had Hurricane Milton, coming up on a year anniversary of Hurricane Milton here this week. So when going back to the funder, we didn't ask for additional funds. We just wanted to be able to keep the window open for collecting this data, considering that many of these areas that were hit were being hit repeatedly. So compound and cascading disasters was something that we were interested in gathering the information about, especially in these severe economically impacted communities that have been hit several times by several different hurricanes in the past 2.5 years, basically. So that was one of the reasons that we've asked the funder to keep it open, and they were agreeable. We did, like I mentioned earlier, the grant does officially end at the end of this year. So, oh, excuse me. Okay, so what are we kind of looking for with this particular project and just understanding community impacts? We know that factors impacting community include the location, obviously the type of disaster, the availability of those resources within those communities, and the access to those resources, especially for some of our smaller rural areas. Are they relying on areas, more urban areas that are closer by, and were those areas impacted by these particular storms as well? Obviously, the extent of damage and devastation, and I think Christa is going to talk about how these storms have impacted the devastation and the damage, especially within our agricultural communities. Again, I mentioned earlier compound disasters and cascading events. The last slide showed the series of storms we've had, and many of these impacted the exact same areas, including that Southwest Florida, but also our Big Bend area and our some of our Panhandle as well were hit repeatedly. So understanding that these folks have been hit sometimes twice in 1 year, as happened last year. Obviously, the breakup of communities, we saw this after Hurricane Katrina. It's something that was talked about, especially on the recent anniversary. Then also after Hurricane Michael and our Panhandle as well. And then uneven recovery. A lot of times, a lot of the areas, especially in rural and communities, oftentimes can't catch up or can't bounce back as quickly as some of the other areas, especially the urban areas that have access to more resources as well. So other community response and thinking about the different stages that communities go through. You kind of have your heroic stage, which is that stage of everybody's going to try to help each other out. Think about there's trees on somebody's driveway. We're going to help them get that off of there. There's the honeymoon stage where everyone is coming together. People are coming together, trying to help each other out. Folks feel a very good sense of community. They feel like they love their community. Disillusionment kind of kicks in after that. That a lot of times comes in after maybe trying to work through insurance companies or trying to figure out different types of forms or things like that. It just folks become very frustrated as well. And then recovery and restoration obviously can be the very longest. And I have kind of a question there. Which response do you think could be the longest? And I think a lot of times that is that recovery and restoration recovery can take a very long time in communities. So what leads to better outcomes in communities? Obviously, a positive outlook, comforting beliefs, a very strong support network, not only at the individual and family level, but at that community level as well. And we've seen that with lots of our communities throughout Florida as well, these strong communities that have a very strong support network of each other. A high self-esteem, again, thinking not only at that individual and family level, but thinking at that community level, that high self-esteem, we've been through this before, we can do this again. This is something we're capable of doing, we'll be back. And we hear that with a lot of our communities. Open and supportive communication from each other, but then also across county lines as well. Being able to adapt, change is hard a lot of times, and a lot of times after some of these storms, you have to go back to a new normal. So being able to adapt to that is important as well. And then as mentioned earlier, those community resources, understanding what the resources are that are available before, during, and after a storm as well, and then looking to making those links across county lines and a lot of times across state lines as well to some of those resources also. So just to talk a little bit about some of our project aims with this particular project, we wanted to expand the understanding by UF-IFAS Extension of those economic impacts, again, overlying the work that Christa does with trying to understand those communities that were the hardest hit and the needs and barriers of the agricultural communities following Hurricane Ian and Idalia, and then later on, Helene and Milton as well. Economic analysis, a photo voice project, and then publications would be coming out of this. Our aim number 2 is increase the knowledge of those impacted Florida agricultural communities regarding the resources that can meet their needs and assist them as they work through recovery process. This includes analysis of photographs, some focus groups, webinars, and resources and publications. And last but not least, optimize the collaboration between extension and local, state, and federal agencies during recovery to implement an active evidence-based support and referral program that best meets the identified needs of impacted agricultural communities. So showcasing those photographs, showing up at events to talk about what we have learned from this, and then ways that we can build programmatic things as well as research into recovery and how best to support communities in recovery, especially in communities that have been hit several times or hit repeatedly as well. So just really trying to understand the needs of communities after recovery and how we in extension can best meet those gaps and needs during blue skies and going into hurricane seasons. All right. So just kind of a timeline of things. Aim number 1 is something that we have focused on majority of the time. And Christa will talk about her work with the economic impact and the Photo Voice Project. We are still actually kind of collecting photographs as well, and I'll talk about that after Christa. Determining the needs and gaps are something we have started working on as well. And our last thing, which we'll be starting here shortly, is develop and distribute outreach and communication tools as well. So aim number 1 is the economic impact and photo voice project. I'm going to let Dr. Court talk about her economic analysis, and then I will come back and talk a little bit about the actual photo voice project. So Christa, I'm going to stop sharing and let you share. So.
Sounds good. Thank you, Angie. I get everything pulled up. Okay, is it showing up okay on your side? Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background into the work that we do, because a lot of the work that we do on disaster impact analysis was sort of setting up the recruitment for this project. So that's part of the reason that it was aim number 1, was to determine these impacts, and they do take time after each storm. And every time that we added another storm, we needed to make sure that we were considering those potential compound events in the recruitment area. But a lot of the work that we do is very high level. So as Angie mentioned, this project is aimed at understanding the community and individual perspective on these events. So taking some of this high level data just to try to orient ourselves and target where we were collecting these photos from was the overall goal. So I direct the UF-IFAS Economic Impact Analysis Program. We are an integrated research and extension program that's housed within the Food and Resource Economics Department. We have expertise in the areas of regional economic modeling, economic impact analysis, economic contribution studies, which I'll talk about a little bit at the end here, and disaster impact analysis as one of those things. So I've made sure that I have a photo of our 2024-25 disaster impact analysis team here to highlight the fact that it's not just me doing this work. We have a whole team of us that's making sure that these numbers are available. So what we do is provide technical assistance to industry groups, academic units, government agencies, and local communities, both during blue skies when we're talking about the economic importance of particular industries to an area, or when we're doing disaster impact analyses, trying to rapidly provide information so that decisions can be made related to disaster declaration, relief, and recovery. So as Angie mentioned, I've only put 4 of the 5 storms here because my slides aren't quite wide enough to fit all 5 of them. And so I would like to focus on these 4. But Hurricane Ian, Category 4, it came when it made landfall on Florida. September 28th, 2022, near Punta Gorda. 14 counties experienced hurricane force winds in this particular storm, and an additional 39 counties experienced tropical storm force winds. So while it does matter where these hurricanes make landfall, the impacts are really dependent on the intensity of different characteristics of the storm, and I'll get to that in a minute. Hurricane Idalia came on shore as a Category 3 in 2023 near Keaton Beach. 8 counties again experienced hurricane force winds, and 38 additional counties experienced tropical storm force winds. 2024, we saw 2 storms within a 2-week period. Category 4 storm, Hurricane Helene, September 26th near Perry, Florida. 8 counties experiencing hurricane force winds, and 55 additional counties experiencing tropical storm winds. And Hurricane Milton came on shore as a Category 3 October 9th, 2024 near Siesta Key. 14 counties in that case experienced hurricane force winds as it came across the peninsula. 43 additional counties experiencing tropical storm force winds. So what we do is take all of this information related to the event itself. So prior to Hurricane Ian, we didn't have all of this information available to us, but Hurricane Ian was the first time where we were able to categorize the intensity of wind, precipitation, and flood depth for a storm, and we've kept that as part of our methodology through all of the storms after that. And then we keep on hand a lot of baseline data, so information about what is grown in Florida, where it's grown, when it's grown, how much it's worth when it's grown. So anything from a citrus grove, a field of sweet corn, all of the aquaculture products that are grown throughout the state. We know where that is and about what stage of their season they're in when a particular event hits. And then we go through a process right after the storm of collecting information via surveys and reports from our partnering industry associations, as well as our extension agents that maybe we didn't have an individual report for a particular area, but they have provided us with a summary of what's going on for a particular commodity group or area. We roll all of that up into what we call rapid statewide assessments of production losses. So we do collect information on infrastructure damage, but the numbers that we show are specifically for production losses. So how much there was a change in revenue for a particular farm for a particular season. When we look across these 4 storms, again, I mentioned that the methodology is largely the same across all 4 of them, so the numbers are somewhat comparable, as opposed to me having to put a big flag saying we changed methodologies across storms. Hurricane Ian caused about $1.035 billion in agricultural losses. Idalia the following year, another $276 million. Hurricane Helene, 116. That should not say billion, it should say million. And agricultural losses from Hurricane Milton, $428 million. I'm just going to dive into the details on one particular storm here just to show you the amount of detail that is available behind those overall numbers in case you are interested. So we do take, as I mentioned, the wind, the precipitation, and the estimated flooding from each event and roll that up into a hurricane composite intensity index. So behind that index, you're seeing data here to the far right on the wind swath pattern of a particular event. In the middle, you're seeing the cumulative precipitation totals, and we do tend to start those a few days before the storm to understand if it was wet even prior to the precipitation associated with a particular storm that would make it worse, as well as a few days after the event for the same reason. And on the far right, you'll see the estimated flood inundation depth that we get from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, showing what that flooding looked like in again a multi-day period after the event itself. As I mentioned, we roll those 3 up into a hurricane composite intensity index, and we're able to overlay that with the information that we have on agricultural lands. So on this slide, the first map that you're seeing on the left is the Hurricane Composite Intensity Index level for the different parcels of agricultural lands that were impacted by Hurricane Helene in Florida. So here, they're small, but you can see the darker colors up in the Big Bend area in that sort of north central portion of Florida because of where that storm came on shore. But you see a lot of other lands were impacted by lower intensity conditions across the state. In the middle, you'll see county level estimates of those agricultural production losses that I mentioned. So again, the darker the color, the higher the dollar value of losses for that particular county. And then on the far right, we're showing the same information, but the pie charts are letting you know what category or what commodity group those losses were in based on the county that they were experienced in. So the larger the pie, the larger the dollar value of losses, and then the pieces of the pie are showing you the different commodity groups. And I will mention here, since we're talking about Hurricane Helene, that animals and animal products category does contain aquaculture. So you will notice that one contains those losses that I mentioned for the shellfish aquaculture sector there in Levy County. Um, So again, one of the things that we wanted to do to sort of target the recruitment for this project was consider all of these events together. So as new events were happening, we were trying to feed that information in to kind of adjust our recruitment process. So this map is showing you the sum, so they are equally weighted across the 4 storms, but the sum of that Hurricane Composite Intensity Index for Ian, Idalia, Helene, and Milton, and then it's divided by 4, which means the 4 storms themselves are equally weighted. So here you can see the darker the color is, the higher the intensity of the storm conditions that were experienced by agricultural parcels across all 4 of the storms. So you see a couple different areas highlighted. And again, the peninsula had Ian and Milton come through, and then that north central Big Bend region had Helene and Idalia. One final thing that we do, I mentioned that we do a lot of economic contribution analyses. For the state, we put out a report that talks about the economic contributions of agriculture, natural resource, and food industries in the state. So the latest iteration of that report is about to be released. So you're seeing maps in a report that's not yet released, but I think that's okay for this webinar. So what is showing here as figure 11 is our map of total employment contributions by crop, livestock, forestry, and fisheries production sectors. So these are what we think of as primary production of crops, also commercial fisheries and timberland. So this is showing the number of employees that are not only directly employed in those industries, but also employed through what we call multiplier effects. So because those industries are spending money within the local economy here in Florida, there's additional activity throughout the economy that is supported by the existence of those sectors in the state. And that's what it's showing here on the left. Just because there is a lot of dollar value or a lot of jobs in this case in those particular sectors doesn't necessarily mean that it's the highest, a particularly highly employing sector within a particular economy or county. So on the right, you're seeing us kind of turn that into a relative measure, or we're looking now at just direct employment. So employment within only those agriculture and natural resource and food industries as a share of overall employment within a particular county. So now it noted here that we're excluding distribution, but we are including manufacturing associated with those industries in this particular map. So you would see things like a timber mill in addition to timber production within this number. But now the darker the county, the more heavily reliant the county is on these primary production and manufacturing industries associated with agriculture and natural resources. So we kind of combined those 2 things for the recruiting, where we were looking at not only how heavily were they impacted by these 4 storm events, but also how reliant are they on the agriculture and natural resource industries that we are interested in on top of being impacted heavily. So Angie, I'll pass it back to you now to talk in more detail about the recruitment.
Great. Thank you very much. Oh, let's see. See if I can manage to reshare here, folks. Okay. Wow. Okay, thank you, Krista. And just to talk a little bit about the Photo Voice Project, and after Krista was able to identify those particular counties that we were interested in recruiting from, I talk a little about what we have done in that. But first, I kind of want to go over what is a Photo Voice Project if you're not familiar. This is participatory research. Participants utilize photography to show their community in very specific usually a very specific response to a question. Our question is very open-ended, and what does recovery look like in your community? So this question can be analyzed, or they can interpret that question whatever way they would like to. So those photographs can be very personal. They have a chance to share an experience or tell a story with the photograph as well. And then in addition to that, we will also use photographs to allow participants to provide additional detail and continue to answer questions as well. So photos are actually used as part of as data and are analyzed to determine gaps and needs with the with the focus group and also with the survey as well. So the photographs are actually used as data in addition to the other methods that we are using. So like Krista said, she identified some of those areas that we definitely wanted to target. And we went into kind of these areas with the idea of with the question of what does recovery look like? So we had flyers, we worked with our extension folks, continue to work with our extension folks, social media, blogs, talking points for in-person meetings, including FFA, 4-H, and youth groups. And I'll talk about youth in just a minute. Local conferences, local meetings where folks were meeting, using extension, industry, and email blasts as well. We did cast kind of a wide net a little bit as well, and just because recruiting was slow at the beginning, I'll be honest. So we cast a little bit of a wide net outside of some of the counties that Krista had identified, and obviously asked for their location when they filled out the survey. So therefore, in the analysis, we can obviously look at where the information is coming from, and so be able to analyze in that way. We have been hit by some major hurricanes since 2017, so we know that much of our state is recovering. So I think still that would be interesting information to know, even though they might not be necessarily included in Krista's economic analysis. These are areas of Florida that are still they're still working through things as well. I do have here on the right some of our flyers and some of our ways of recruiting. You'll see on one of them it says ages 13 to 17. We did want to do a youth component of this. I will be honest that IRB was very difficult to work with on this because of getting that parental consent. So in the end, we have gone with 18 and up, as you see there in the bottom right-hand corner. We've still reached out to our 4-H and FFA youth because we know many of those seniors in high school are 18 and above. We've also encouraged it as kind of a family type project that folks can do as a family and maybe have the kids involved, but have the parents upload the photographs as well. So moving on to aim number 2, and that's determining the gaps and needs. And this is where we are currently. We're still accepting photographs because we're still in hurricane season. So we did not want to cut off before the end of hurricane season. So we will be probably accepting photographs until mid to late November, trying to get to the end of November, but then also want to be able to analyze before the end of the year. Still solidifying our analysis process and plan to analyze in December before the holidays, with our focus groups happening in late 2025 or early 2026. And I just wanted to include some of the models that we are using for this analysis. This is the issue and crisis management relational model. Yes, it looks like Trivial Pursuit for those folks that remember that particular game, but we are interested in perhaps where some of these communities are. Business recovery, business resumption, that post-crisis management in a lot of areas as well, based upon some of the data that we receive within the photographs, the focus groups, and the survey data also. This is another particular one. This is community resilience as a set of network adaptive capacities. And you'll see that economic point over there on the left, as well as information and communication, which is part of our deliverables, what we're looking at developing some trusted sources of information and some information out there as well. Community confidence and social capital, looking at community action, flexibility and creativity. What are some of the things that folks have talked about within their community that has helped with recovery or that they can see in the recovery process as well? So this is a great model that's able to look at 4 different areas of resiliency and community impacts as well. So I did want to give you a couple of, nobody has seen these pictures, so kind of like Krista's data, this is first. So these are a couple of the pictures that have been uploaded, just to give you an idea. And again, thinking about the term, what does recovery look like in your community? So like I said, each one of the pictures are provided with with text as well that go with it to explain what they are seeing here. I did not include that just because we got permission to share the photographs, but not the text. So I wanted to be cognizant and respectful of our IRB. But this is one photograph that we received. There's another. And then a large scale, kind of a drone photograph as well of some flooding. It looks like the streets are clear, but it looks like there's still flooding happening as well. So what are our anticipated outcomes and impacts that we're thinking of? Obviously, we want to understand long-term recovery, especially in areas that have been impacted multiple times. We want to understand uneven recovery in areas that are recovering quicker than others or areas that are slower to recover. Specifically looking at recurrent disasters and compound and cascading disasters as well. Understanding the knowledge, collaboration, adoption of different programs or things that are available after these storms in these areas as well. And then increase the disaster resiliency tools. Again, it's our hope with this particular project to get an understanding of recovery and the needs in long-term recovery and develop programming and research around that can help identify and meet those gaps and needs in blue skies so that we're more better prepared for the next hurricane season as well. And then ultimately, we'd love to decrease that recovery time and long-term impacts on folks as well. So I ask y'all, as we wrap up here, this is our, we're still collecting photographs, so feel free to, what does recovery look like in your community? And I think that Carly's actually shared the actual link in the chat for this particular one, but this goes straight to our Images of Recovery website, and where there is a link on there that takes you straight to being able to upload those photographs and answer just a couple of questions as well. And then if you want to participate in the focus group, we would love to have you as well. But like I said, we're trying to leave open accepting photographs through as close to the end of hurricane season as possible. And considering we have until November 30th till the end of hurricane season. So if you have some photographs you'd like to share, or see some own things in your own community, we encourage everybody, including Extension. Some of the Extension folks are on this call. Absolutely, please feel free to share your photographs as well. And so aim number 3 is our last aim, and this is the develop and distribute outreach and communication tools. Once our photos are received, we're looking at putting together a series of our EDIS, which is our IFAS electronic database information system, or white paper type documents regarding the project, and also the work that Christa has done with the economic analysis of these storms, academic publications, and then product development and delivery, including toolkits and webinars. And I will let you in a secret, we're actually looking at trying to do a traveling exhibit with the photographs as well. So be on the lookout for some of that at some local events coming up within the new year here. So, and with that, I think I'm done. Christa, is there anything that you want to add? Sorry. Stop sharing.
No, Angie, there was a question in the Q&A for more specifics on what will happen with the photos that are received. So maybe we could cover that one now since you were just talking about it.
Yes, thank you. So absolutely, we are going to use them in the data analysis, obviously, but then we also are looking at, like I said, we're mentioning doing a traveling exhibit using the photographs. The website that Carly shared earlier with the Images of Recovery website, we plan to also kind of put together an online document. We talked about printing a document, but we thought maybe having something online that would coordinate or complement very well a traveling exhibit might be better. But we do plan to highlight those photographs with something online as well as a traveling exhibit as well. Thank you. That's a great question.
Great. Do we have any more questions? It looks like we have 2 answered questions already. All right. Well, seeing no further questions, I want to thank Angie and Christa for being here today and sharing their project and their research. I thought this was very insightful, and I look forward to seeing where Images of Recovery goes. So with that, I will end the webinar. Thank you all for joining. There's also a post-webinar evaluation survey I shared in the chat and as well as on the screen. If you could please fill out that brief survey so that we can continue to improve these webinars going forward. Thanks. All right.